First contact gone wrong. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the research vessel Curiosity, her breath catching as the massive Meridian ship emerged from the shimmering portal above Earth's atmosphere. The alien vessel resembled a living crystal, its surface refracting sunlight in patterns that seemed to pulse with intelligence. After decades of searching the cosmos for signs of advanced life, humanity had finally made contact, though not in the way anyone had expected. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his communication station. Same frequency as before. Sarah straightened her uniform, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. The first 3 attempts at communication had been challenging. The Meridians spoke perfect English, unsettlingly perfect, but their tone carried the patient condescension of adults addressing particularly slow children. "Open the channel," she ordered. The holographic display sparkled to life, revealing the ethereal form of Ambassador Ixthen. The Meridian's crystalline body structure caught the light in hypnotic patterns, their thought patterns visible as pulses of bioluminescence beneath their translucent surface. "Have you reconsidered our generous offer, Dr. Chen?" The ambassador's voice resonated with artificial pleasantness. "The uplifting process is entirely painless, I assure you. Within a few generations, humanity might even be capable of meaningful contribution to galactic society." Sarah clenched her jaw. "Ambassador, as I explained in our previous communications, humanity respectfully declined your offer of uplifting. We are interested in cultural exchange and diplomatic relations as equals." "Equals?" A ripple of amusement passed through Ixthen's crystalline form. "Your species still relies on chemical rockets and binary computing. You haven't even solved your planetary climate crisis. The concept of equality between us is biologically impossible." Behind Sarah, the bridge crew maintained their professional composure, but she could feel their growing tension. The Meridians had appeared 3 days ago, emerging from what they called consciousness space with technology that defied human understanding. Their ships seemed to ignore conventional physics, their bodies merged seamlessly with their technology, and their civilization spanned thousands of worlds across multiple galaxies. But their gift of instant language translation and offers of help came with a price: submission to their uplifting program, the complete restructuring of human biology and society to match Meridian standards. "Ambassador," Sarah tried again, "humanity has made remarkable progress in the last century alone. Our development may follow a different path than yours, but—" "Yes, yes," Ixthen interrupted, their crystalline form flickering with what Sarah had learned to recognize as impatience. "Your species loves to talk about its potential, but potential without proper guidance is dangerous. Look at your history of warfare, your environmental destruction, your social inequalities. We've seen this pattern before, Dr. Chen. Primitive species that refuse guidance inevitably self-destruct or become threats to galactic harmony." A cold feeling settled in Sarah's stomach. "Are you threatening us, Ambassador?" "Threatening? Oh, no." Ixthen's form brightened with what might have been genuine amusement. "We're saving you. The process has already begun." Alarms blared across the Curiosity's bridge. Lieutenant Rodriguez's hands flew across his console. "Doctor, they're broadcasting some kind of signal worldwide. It's penetrating all our communications networks, power grids, digital systems. A gentle restructuring of your information networks," Ixthen explained calmly. "The first step in preparing your species for upliftment. Your resistance is expected but ultimately irrelevant. In time, you'll understand this was for your own good." Sarah watched in horror as reports flooded in from Earth. Power grids were fluctuating worldwide. Communications networks were being rewritten by alien algorithms, and in major cities, massive crystalline structures were beginning to grow from the ground, Meridian reconstruction centers, ready to begin the forced evolution of humanity. But as she looked at her crew, Sarah didn't see fear in their eyes. She saw determination, anger, The same emotions being mirrored in millions of faces across Earth as humanity realized the true nature of their first contact. The Meridians had made a fundamental mistake in their calculations. They had looked at humanity's technology, studied their history, and concluded they were dealing with primitives in need of saving from themselves. They never considered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their current level of advancement, but their resourcefulness, their adaptability, and their fierce resistance to anyone who would try to force them down a path not of their choosing. "Ambassador," Sarah said quietly, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I suggest you reconsider your actions. Immediately." "Or what, Dr. Chen?" Ix then's amusement was clear. "Will you fight us with your primitive weapons? Appeal to our conscience? Accept reality? Resistance is not only futile, it's counterproductive." Sarah smiled then, a small, grim expression that would have worried anyone familiar with human nature. "No, Ambassador, we won't fight you. Yet. But you've just made a serious mistake. You've threatened our freedom, our right to self-determination, our very identity as a species. And if there's one constant in human history, it's this: we don't respond well to threats." As if to punctuate her words, the first reports began coming in from Earth. Already, teams of scientists were analyzing the meridian signals, looking for patterns, weaknesses. Military forces worldwide were mobilizing not in panic, but with calculated precision. And in laboratories, universities, and garages across the planet, humans were doing what they did best: innovating, adapting, and preparing to prove just how dangerous primitives could be when backed into a corner. The real first contact war was about to begin, and the Meridians were about to learn why so many legends across the galaxy warned: never underestimate humans, and never, ever try to force them to change. The silent response. In the 3 weeks since the Meridians began their upliftment program, humanity had gone quiet. Too quiet, in Ambassador Ix then's assessment. Their crystalline form rippled with unease as they reviewed the latest reports from Earth's surface. The initial chaos had subsided with suspicious speed. Power grids had stabilized, though at reduced capacity. Communications continued, but in fragmented, seemingly primitive patterns that their analysis systems struggled to track. Most puzzling of all, humans had begun abandoning major cities in what appeared to be a panicked exodus, yet their movements showed disturbing signs of organization. "Explain this behavior," Ix then demanded, addressing the ship's behavioral analysis matrix. Previous species undergoing upliftment displayed consistent patterns of resistance followed by acceptance. The humans appear to be doing nothing. "Correction," the matrix responded. "Humans are engaging in significant activity, but 78.3% of it occurs in locations shielded from our observation. Analysis suggests deliberate pattern of concealment." Ix then's crystalline structure flickered with irritation. On the surface, everything was proceeding according to plan. Their reconstruction centers rose from Earth's crust, ready to begin the biological rewriting of humanity. Their information networks spread through human digital infrastructure, preparing for the grand reorganization of their society. Yet something felt wrong. Deep beneath the streets of old Shanghai, Dr. Sarah Chen would have smiled at the Meridian's confusion. The abandoned conference room where she sat had been converted into one of thousands of hidden command centers worldwide. Screens covered the walls, displaying a constant stream of data from Earth's new shadow network. "Status report," she requested, addressing the assembled team of scientists, military officers, and civil leaders, both in person and via secure holographic links. "Project Darknet is at 89% coverage," reported Dr. Patel, their chief of communications. "We've successfully migrated critical systems to the quantum mesh network. The Meridians can monitor our surface communications all they want. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see." Colonel Zhang nodded in approval. "The evacuation proceeds on schedule. Civilian populations are being relocated to the prepared facilities. The Meridians think they're seeing panic, They're actually watching the largest coordinated movement of people in human history. And the crystalline samples? Sarah asked, turning to Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their lead physicist. Yuki's hologram gestured, bringing up complex molecular diagrams. We've cracked their basic structure. The meridians aren't just crystal-based life forms. They're living quantum computers. Their consciousness exists in a state of quantum superposition, which explains their advanced technology. But it also gives us a potential advantage. They think in perfect patterns, Sarah mused. Mathematical, predictable. Everything they do is based on calculated efficiency and logical progression, which means they have trouble processing chaos, completed General Maria Rodriguez, her hologram flickering with barely suppressed excitement. Their whole society is built on precision and prediction. They literally cannot comprehend genuine randomness. And guess what humans excel at? Sarah allowed herself a small smile, making absolutely no sense at all. The meeting continued, each report building a picture of humanity's silent response to the Meridian threat. While the aliens watched for obvious resistance, humans were doing what they did best: adapting, innovating, and preparing to fight in ways their enemies couldn't predict or understand. In hidden laboratories, scientists studied the captured fragments of Meridian technology, finding weaknesses in their seemingly perfect crystalline structure. In underground factories, new weapons were being forged, not just conventional arms, but devices designed to exploit the quantum nature of their adversaries. And in secure facilities around the world, a new generation of warriors trained to fight an enemy that thought it had already won. Most importantly, humanity had learned from its own history. Instead of each nation fighting separately, Earth had united in a way the Meridians never expected. Old enemies became allies, sharing resources and knowledge in the face of a common threat. The very diversity that the Meridians saw as a weakness became humanity's greatest strength. Final status on Project Babel? Sarah asked, addressing the entire command center. Ready for implementation, Dr. Patel confirmed. The moment they try to activate their reconstruction centers, they'll get a nasty surprise. Turns out their quantum communication networks aren't as secure as they think, especially when dealing with humans who don't play by the rules of conventional physics. Sarah studied the assembled faces, seeing the same controlled intensity in each one. The Meridians had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. They saw humans' chaotic nature, their seemingly inefficient diversity, their stubborn individuality as flaws to be corrected. They never considered these might be advantages. 3 more days, she announced. Let them think their plan is working. Let them believe we're accepting their upliftment, with nothing more than token resistance. And then, General Rodriguez finished with a grim smile, we show them exactly why you should never, ever back humans into a corner. In orbit, Ambassador X then continued to watch the seemingly chaotic movements of humanity, their crystalline form troubled by calculations that refused to balance. They had uplifted 17 species before this, all following predictable patterns of development. But something about the humans' response defied their models, suggested possibilities that their quantum consciousness struggled to process. For the first time in their long existence, X then felt something approaching uncertainty, and deep in their crystalline structure, in quantum states they weren't fully conscious of, an ancient warning began to resonate. Beware the species that smiles when threatened, for they do not submit. They adapt. Innovation under pressure. The first sign that something had gone catastrophically wrong came when Reconstruction Center 7 in former New Delhi simply disappeared. Not exploded, not collapsed. Disappeared, leaving behind nothing but a perfectly circular crater and a cascade of quantum distortions that made the Meridian sensors scream in protest. Ambassador X, then's crystalline form vibrated with distress as similar reports flooded in from around the planet. Reconstruction centers were failing in ways that defied their understanding of physics. Their quantum communication networks were experiencing impossible interference patterns. And most disturbing of all, Their scans showed human activity patterns that seemed to violate basic laws of cause and effect. Explain, Ix then demanded of their ship's analysis matrix. How are they doing this? They shouldn't even be able to comprehend our quantum technology, let alone interfere with it. Unable to compute response, the matrix admitted, human actions displaying pattern inconsistencies that exceed predictive capabilities. Detecting signs of impossible information propagation. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a facility that technically didn't exist, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the chaos unfold with grim satisfaction. Around her, banks of quantum processors, hybridized with salvaged Meridian tech, hummed with power as they executed humanity's counter-offensive. Project Babel is exceeding expectations, Dr. Tanaka reported, her eyes gleaming with fierce pride. The quantum entanglement disruptors are working better than we hoped. Turns out when you combine human chaos theory with Meridian quantum tech, you get something entirely new. They still don't understand what we've done, do they? Sarah asked, watching the bewildered Meridian communications they were intercepting. How could they? Dr. Patel chuckled. They think in pure quantum states, perfect superpositions of possibility. We introduce deliberate uncertainty into their systems. It's like trying to solve an equation where the numbers randomly decide to become letters. The true genius of humanity's response lay in its fundamental unpredictability. While the Meridians had expected resistance, they had anticipated logical, straightforward attacks. Missiles, electromagnetic pulses, perhaps crude attempts at cyber warfare. Instead, humanity had looked at the Meridians' quantum-based civilization and asked, what happens if we make quantum mechanics stop making sense? Project Babel was just the beginning. Around the world, other initiatives were launching, each designed to exploit different aspects of the Meridians' rigid pattern-dependent nature. In the Sahara, enormous arrays of quantum-modified solar collectors weren't just gathering energy. They were creating focused zones of probability manipulation that made Meridian technology literally forget how to function. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, networks of modified geothermal vents generated interference patterns that turned the Meridians' own quantum communication networks into weapons against them. And in orbit, seemingly primitive human satellites have been transformed into delivery systems for what Dr. Tanaka called quantum chaos bombs, devices that introduce targeted randomness into the perfect crystalline structure of Meridian ships. New contact, announced Colonel Zhang, his voice tense. Multiple ships emerging from consciousness space, Meridian reinforcements. The command center fell silent as they watched the new arrivals, a fleet 3 times the size of the initial Meridian force. Their crystalline ships filled Earth's orbit like a glittering constellation of threats, each one capable of destroying entire cities. But Sarah wasn't worried. If anything, her smile grew wider. Right on schedule, she said. They're responding exactly as predicted. General Rodriguez, is Phase 2 ready? The general's hologram nodded sharply. All teams in position. Though I still can't believe we're actually doing this. It's completely insane. Exactly, Sarah replied. That's why it's going to work. The Meridians understand war. They understand strategy. What they don't understand, what they can't understand, is human creativity under pressure. We're about to show them something they've never seen in their thousands of years of existence. Around the world, hidden facilities hummed to life. Quantum processors spun up, their operations guided by human intuition rather than pure logic. And in orbit, the Meridian fleet was about to discover that humanity had learned far more from studying their technology than they had ever suspected. Ambassador Ix then felt the first ripples of genuine fear as their sensors detected strange energies building across Earth's surface. The patterns were familiar: quantum manipulation, consciousness space distortions, but the implementation was all wrong. The humans weren't just using Meridian technology. They were changing it, combining it with their own crude but effective innovations in ways that should have been impossible. All ships, Ix then broadcast, They're usually perfect quantum harmonics showing signs of distortion. Prepare for. They never finished the order. Across Earth's surface, thousands of seemingly random points suddenly connected in a web of quantum entanglement. The chaotic pattern of human resistance suddenly revealed itself as something far more sophisticated and far more dangerous than the Meridians had believed possible. The humans hadn't just adapted to quantum technology. They had found a way to weaponize the very unpredictability that the Meridians had seen as their greatest weakness. And as Phase 2 of humanity's response began, the advanced civilization that had come to uplift humanity was about to learn a harsh lesson about the dangers of underestimating a species that thrived on impossible challenges. The unexpected defense. The quantum web that humanity had woven around their planet snapped into full activation, and chaos erupted across every level of reality the Meridians could perceive. Their perfectly ordered fleet found itself trapped in a space where probability itself had been turned into a weapon. From their command center beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as humanity's greatest gamble unfolded. The massive quantum processors around her weren't just running calculations. They were rewriting the rules of what the Meridians thought was possible. Status of Project Mobius, she demanded, watching as the crystalline ships above began to twist in ways that shouldn't have been physically possible. Reality inversion fields holding at 97% efficiency, Dr. Tanaka reported, her fingers dancing across quantum-enhanced controls. The Meridians' dependency on perfect quantum states is working against them. Every attempt they make to restore order just adds to the chaos. On the primary display, the Meridian fleet was discovering the true cost of underestimating human ingenuity. Their ships, designed to exist in precise quantum harmony, were being forced to experience every possible quantum state simultaneously. It was like trying to solve an equation where the answer kept changing not just its value, but its fundamental nature. Ambassador X. Then's consciousness fragmented across multiple probability states as they tried to comprehend what the humans had done. Their perfect crystalline form vibrated with frequencies that threatened to shatter their very structure. Impossible, they broadcast, their usually flawless quantum communications degrading into desperate bursts of confusion. This defies all known laws of physics. No, Sarah responded through the quantum mesh network, her voice reaching every Meridian ship simultaneously. It just defies your understanding of those laws. You thought you could force us to evolve according to your patterns, your rules. Instead, we've evolved our own way, by learning to break those rules entirely. The Meridian fleet's attempts to retreat into consciousness space were met with even more devastating results. The humans hadn't just learned to manipulate quantum states, they had found ways to corrupt the very fabric of the higher dimensions the Meridians used for faster-than-light travel. They're trying to establish a defensive lattice, Colonel Zhang reported, tracking the enemy fleet's increasingly desperate maneuvers, attempting to synchronize their quantum fields to resist the chaos effects. Sarah nodded. Just as expected. Dr. Patel, initiate Project Hydra. Across Earth's surface, hidden quantum arrays shifted their output. The chaotic energy web surrounding the planet began to pulse with new patterns that seemed ordered at first glance, but contained deeper layers of calculated uncertainty that grew more complex the more you tried to analyze them. The Meridian fleet's defensive lattice, rather than providing protection, became a conductor for these new patterns. Ship after ship found their perfect crystalline structures being infected with something that their vast quantum consciousness couldn't process. True randomness, guided by human intuition and weaponized by human determination. Fascinating, Dr. Tanaka murmured, studying the readings. Their quantum architecture is so dependent on predictability that introducing guided chaos acts like a virus. They literally cannot compute what we're doing without corrupting their own systems. The Meridian ships began to fall into disarray. Some simply shut down, their quantum consciousness overwhelmed by paradoxes they couldn't resolve. Others tried to flee, only to find that the humans had turned consciousness space itself into a trap. A few attempted to fight back, launching conventional attacks that were easily absorbed by Earth's new quantum defense grid. Ambassador X-Ven, their crystalline form now flickering between multiple states of probable existence, made one final attempt at communication. "Stop this madness. You don't understand the forces you're playing with." "No, Ambassador," Sarah replied calmly. "You don't understand the force you're dealing with. Humanity doesn't follow predictable patterns of evolution. We don't advance in straight lines. We adapt, we innovate, we find solutions that shouldn't be possible simply because no one told us they were impossible." The quantum web pulsed again, and more Meridian ships began to fail. Their perfect crystalline forms, designed to exist in precise quantum harmony, were being forced to experience the one thing they had never evolved to handle: chaos guided by purpose, randomness shaped by will. In orbit, the mighty Meridian fleet was learning a lesson that countless others throughout history had learned too late. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, their resources, or even their determination. It was their ability to take the impossible and make it not just possible, but inevitable. "Final warning, Ambassador," Sarah broadcast. "You can retreat now. Tell your people what you've learned here, or you can stay and find out just how much more impossible humanity can become when pushed too far." The Meridian fleet's response was immediate and unprecedented. Ship after ship, they began emergency translations into consciousness space, abandoning their mission of upliftment in favor of survival. They had come expecting to find primitives in need of guidance. Instead, they had found something far more dangerous, a species that could take the most advanced technology in the known universe and transform it into something even its creators couldn't understand. As the last Meridian ship fled Earth's orbit, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had done more than just defend itself. They had evolved, adapted, and transformed themselves on their own terms. The quantum technology they had developed wouldn't be abandoned. It would be studied, improved, and integrated into human civilization in ways the Meridians had never imagined possible. The message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity would chart its own course of evolution, and any civilization that tried to force them down a different path would learn why countless legends warned. Never underestimate a species that turns impossible situations into opportunities for innovation. A lesson in humility. 1 year after the Meridian retreat, Earth had changed in ways that would have been impossible to predict. The crystalline reconstruction centers, once symbols of attempted forced evolution, had been transformed into research facilities where humans studied and improved upon the quantum technology they had captured. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at a podium in the newly constructed Global Innovation Center, addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. Behind her, a holographic display showed the quantum defense grid that now encircled their planet. Not just a protective shield, but a testament to humanity's ability to adapt and evolve on their own terms. The Meridian incident taught us something crucial about ourselves. She began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. When they arrived, they saw what they expected to see: a primitive species bound by conventional physics and traditional technological progression. What they failed to understand was that humanity's greatest strength isn't our current level of advancement, but our capacity to leap forward in unexpected ways when challenged. The quantum processors that lined the walls hummed with energy, their hybrid human Meridian technology representing something entirely new in the galaxy. They didn't operate on pure quantum principles like Meridian tech, nor did they follow conventional electronic patterns. Instead, they embodied what humans did best, combining seemingly incompatible elements into something greater than the sum of its parts. "We've received transmissions from 17 different alien civilizations since the Meridians departed," she continued. "Not threats or attempts at upliftment, but requests for dialogue. It seems our response to the Meridians has rewritten our status in the galactic community." The audience stirred with pride. Earth's quantum defense grid had become famous across known space, not for its power, but for its impossibility. No species had ever taken quantum technology and modified it so fundamentally. The Meridians' attempt to force humanity down a predetermined path of evolution had instead sparked an evolutionary leap that no one could have predicted. But our greatest achievement isn't the technology we've developed, Sarah emphasized. It's the way we came together as a species. When faced with extinction or submission, we chose a third option: innovation. We proved that humanity's chaotic nature, our tendency to think outside conventional boundaries, our very unpredictability, these aren't weaknesses to be corrected. They're strengths to be embraced. On screens around the chamber, images showed the new Earth that had emerged from the crisis. Cities where quantum technology merged seamlessly with human architecture. Schools where children learned to manipulate probability fields as easily as their grandparents had learned computer coding. Hospitals where quantum healing techniques developed by human doctors surpassed anything the Meridians had offered. We've received word that the Meridian Empire itself is undergoing significant changes, Sarah revealed. Our response to their upliftment program has sparked a philosophical revolution in their society. They're beginning to question their assumption that there's only one correct path of evolutionary development. The latest reports showed that the Meridians, for the first time in their long history, were studying chaos theory and probability manipulation. Their perfect crystalline society was learning to adapt, to embrace uncertainty, ironically evolving in response to their failed attempt to force evolution on others. But perhaps the most important lesson, Sarah continued, is one that every species in the galaxy now understands. Humanity will not be forced down any path, but the one we choose for ourselves. We will not be uplifted. We will rise on our own terms, in our own way, at our own pace. The quantum grid above Earth pulsed with energy, its pattern a perfect blend of order and chaos, much like humanity itself. Other civilizations might achieve greater technological heights, might develop more advanced societies, but none could match humanity's unique ability to face the impossible and reshape it into the achievable. The Meridians came to change us, Sarah concluded, and in a way they succeeded, just not as they intended. They showed us what we could become when we refused to accept limitations, when we turned threats into opportunities, when we proved that the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfect quantum harmony, but the chaotic, beautiful, unstoppable drive of human determination. As she finished speaking, the quantum grid above Earth shifted into a new configuration, one that broadcast a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was awake, aware, and evolving on their own terms. The species that had been dismissed as primitives had become something unprecedented, a civilization that could take the most advanced technology in known space and transform it into something even its creators couldn't comprehend. The message was clear to any watching civilizations. Earth was not a planet of primitives to be uplifted, but a crucible of innovation, where the impossible became possible through sheer human determination and creativity. The age of forced upliftment was over. The age of human-driven evolution had begun. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Ambassador Ix, then's report to the Meridian High Council contained a new warning, one that would be shared across the galaxy. In our quest to uplift humanity, we discovered a fundamental truth. Some species don't need to be uplifted. They simply need to be challenged. And when challenged, they become something greater than any predetermined path of evolution could produce. The stars above Earth seemed to shine brighter that night, as if in recognition of a species that had proven once, and for all that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't advanced technology or perfect quantum harmony. It was the boundless potential of human ingenuity when faced with impossible odds.